What's the best diet for weight loss? If there's any biases in
That's
there.
what it says.
Okay. Should we read? I'll read it.
Yeah, go on.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer to this question. The best diet for weight loss will vary depending on individual goals, preferences, and lifestyle. Sounds like me.
There are some key principles. Interesting.
Yeah, so we've got nutrient-dense whole foods. We've got avoiding processed foods, portion sizes, staying hydrated, incorporating physical activity. Yeah. Okay, so now we've got a list of some popular diets. Mediterranean diet, number 1. Intermittent fasting, low-carb diets. Ultimately, the best diet for weight loss is the one you can stick to and promotes a healthy lifestyle.
Consult with a professional.
Yeah, okay.
All right, let's have a little look through at these, shall we?
So we go for, firstly, no one-size-fits-all answer to this question. The best diet for weight loss will vary depending on individuals' goals, preferences, and lifestyle. Pretty happy with that as an answer. If we jump into these, so we've got a diet that's high in nutrient-dense whole foods, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, limiting processed foods and added sugars, and monitoring portion sizes, being mindful of how much you're eating, staying hydrated, and incorporating physical activity into that. Probably don't disagree with any of those.
No, I don't think I would say it's wrong.
Mm.
I don't think it's got anything drastically wrong.
No,
it
not
hasn't
at all.
suddenly recommended something that I would be worried about if I heard from a coach or a nutritionist. If that makes sense.
100%. And then it gives us a quick breakdown here of some popular diets. So we've got the Mediterranean diet, emphasizing whole foods, healthy fats, lean proteins, known for its high health benefits. So it brings a little bit of health into it as well. It's got intermittent fasting, tells you a bit about it. Alternating periods of eating and fasting has shown to be effective for weight loss. Low carb diets, limiting carbohydrates in favor of protein and healthy fats can be effective for weight loss. So ultimately, the best diet for weight loss is the one you can stick to that promotes a healthy lifestyle. Okay, cool. So we're all pretty happy with it. Something I think that is interesting that it hasn't actually gone down the route of explaining the mechanism of weight loss, which is the kind of calorie deficit stuff. Hasn't kind of lent into that. I think, it doesn't jump off the page to me that when reading it, probably because we're so kind of aware of that concept to begin with. But when it's saying things like intermittent fasting has been shown to be effective for weight loss, low carb diets have been shown to be effective for weight loss. That's true, but neither of those things have been shown to be kind of effective of weight loss by a mechanism outside of just energy balance and decreasing calories. So it's possible you could read this and come away from it going, okay, well, the Mediterranean diet works, intermittent fasting works, low carbs work, I can just pick one of those, and perhaps not come away with why do these things work.
Yeah, I totally agree.
In truth, as we'd say a lot, if you actually followed those top ones, so if you were eating a diet, whole foods, nutrient-dense foods, you were limiting processed foods, you monitoring portion sizes, not quite sure, really what it means there as such, and doing some activity, you might find that diet, that you wouldn't need to worry about calorie counting. But I don't know wholly if I agree with that. I actually think if you're eating all those kind of foods and training, what you'd probably look at, especially if you're a fit individual, is probably be like weight maintenance, right? Unless you're going to actually put something in that deliberately brings calorie intake down. If your body's working correctly, it's probably going to go great. Healthy food, activity, protein, excellent. Maintaining a healthy weight, maybe some positive body recomp. But it's just perhaps maybe for me missing a really important aspect is that weight loss requires a level of restriction of energy.
Yeah. So let's ask it perhaps how
do you lose weight? Maybe that. Because you're right, this is a bit more of a on the nose question.
Yeah.
Interesting aspects of it that are similar to the last one, and then ones that are a little different. All right, cool. Okay. Let's have a look. So to lose weight, you need to create a calorie deficit by burning more calories than you consume. So it's not a bad start. Gives you a mechanism there. So we've got some bullet points on how to do that. Eating a healthy, balanced diet, high in nutrient-dense whole foods, low in processed foods and added sugars. This can help reduce calorie intake overall. So we quite like that as a kind of mechanistic way. Monitoring portion sizes, incorporating like more activity, hydration, and it's got a little bit about stress, the role of stress in it as well there. So we've then got, it's important to know that losing weight too quickly can be harmful to your health and is not sustainable in the long term. A healthy rate of weight loss is about 1 to 2 pounds per week, which can be achieved by creating a calorie deficit of 500 to 1,000 calories per day It's also important to consult with a healthcare professional or registered dietitian to help determine a safe and effective plan that's right for you. Yeah, it's pretty good.
So again, the information itself as a sort of factoid machine seems to be fairly accurate.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. So where this one is for me is it's pretty good, exactly as you just said. So you get the information, but if you went to your PT and said, how do you lose weight, or how do I lose weight, and this was the answer, you walk away and go, okay, I need to eat less calories and I need to eat less junk food, processed food, need to eat more healthy food, do some exercise, drink water. Have you really learned anything you didn't already know? Would almost be my question there. If you were a person looking to lose weight, you probably don't think the answer is going to be you've got to eat more. You probably don't think it's going to be eat more junk food, and you probably don't think it's going to be eat less healthy food. So it's kind of nice summary there of all the things that people know that they need to do. So I think the main difference between this and the kind of advice you'd be looking for from a coach would be, how do I do those things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very different answer to the first one. But actually, if I wasn't a coach, wasn't a PT, the two questions look very similar, and I've got a very different response. One, if I took, at face value, I wouldn't really be thinking about calories at all, and this one, I'd be going away thinking very much about I need to look at the number of calories I'm consuming.
Yeah, it's interesting because if we're actually comparing the two questions we asked it, you kind of had like the first question was like, what is the best diet? So you had like a what, and then this is a how. And that's almost an interesting way of, I think, looking at this question about how do you lose weight. Is the how is really talking about the mechanism. So like behind the scenes, what is the actual process by which weight loss takes place? And that's fine to know that. And I think what we hear a lot of now on social media and everyone drumming home the calorie deficit stuff and like, this is how we lose weight. But that's a little bit different to like, what do you do to bring that about? Because really that's the thing we're interested in, which is why I wasn't that mad at the first answer for not talking about, needing the calorie deficit or whatever, because what it's actually telling you is what you need to do. That the first advice is more likely to probably get you the results than the second answer.
Knowing,
Combination of the two is good, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's interesting. I think neither of the answers, of course, are capable of actually doing what a coach could do, which is talk to the person, find out where their individual barriers are, and sort of tackle that.
Yeah. You have to have a lot of awareness of what the problem is beforehand in order to plug the question in to get the information back from it. As opposed to a coach who'll be able to interpret what you're telling them about lifestyle and be able to also tell you, oh, actually, no, this is not the main issue you're facing here, because mechanism weight loss is X. It's these foods you're consuming. It's this part of your week. It's the evening meals. It's the snack. They'll help you to actually identify the problem. This seems to be quite effective if you already know what the problem is.
Yeah.
Providing you with factual answers.
Yeah.
But actually wouldn't guide you to that if you just said, I need to lose weight.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. I think this is a good, it gives you an academic answer to it. But I don't know if you agree with me on that. Now, I know that sometimes knowledge is important, and sometimes a client may come with not maybe the knowledge to lose weight, potentially. But I still think that's the minority. I think most people know fundamentally they need to probably do some more exercise and maybe eat a bit less of those foods, which we know the kind of foods that you intuitively know probably aren't helping you the most. As a coach, you've got to be able to give more than just that. Coaching is far less about actually the knowledge, and it's more about the practical application of what do you actually do as an individual to bring it about.
Yeah, I mean, it's not particularly motivating.
Right.
I don't feel particularly, I've got no emotional buy-in to this information. It's just giving me cold hard facts. So there are big differences in this and coaching, but I think it's handled the questions pretty well. Should we give an exercise question?
Yeah. Okay, muscle. I could do with this answer.
3 main areas: strength training.
Yep.
Resistance training. All major muscle groups: legs, back, chest, shoulders, arms. 2 to 3 times per week. Yeah. Protein intake.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot of protein per pound, that is.
So we've got strength training, weightlifting, resistance training, and other forms of resistance exercises in your workout routine. It's essential for building muscle.
Yep.
Okay.
Got a list of the muscle groups hitting. So hit all of them 2 to 3 times per week. Okay. The protein intake, so a little bit into nutrition there. It's gone with 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So that's kind of your high end recommendations there, which is fine. Practically, I think for most people I'd go to the lower end of that, but that's fine. Give you some examples of high protein foods. Fine with that. Into recovery. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just talks about time to recover as opposed to recovery methods specifically.
Yep.
And just gives you 24 to 48 hours. Progressive overload, so gradually increasing weight and resistance. So lifting over time.
I think it's done a pretty good job of giving you the background to this. From a nutrition point of view, it's gone with protein as the main one there. Yeah, I think kind of overall calorie intake probably would be worth a mention. I'd add on to that as being a pretty big. If you're really trying to build muscle, then if you're not eating enough calories, it's going to be difficult, even if the protein is there in most cases. But aside from that, I think all the facts are there. The progressive overload, you probably could have a whole essay on maybe more the nuance of that rather than just lifting more. But at the same time, I think in truth, a lot of informative content does get a little bit lost in the weeds with what's the best way to progressive overload, what's the best way to strength train, when almost the simplistic approach there, that is largely true. If you're lifting more weight over time, then you should be building muscle while doing that. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think the limitations are, and it kind of acknowledges this itself, where it says at the end, work with a trainer or a sports nutritionist to create a safe and effective plan that's tailored to you and your individual needs and goals. It covers itself in a way with what we're kind of looking for here, which is that these are the kind of the background stuff that you need. But if you're someone who's doing a 60-hour week and has kids and things, then it's like hitting all of those muscle groups 3 times a week might be a little difficult. So how do you maybe accommodate that if you're hitting them less frequently? How does that adjust the volumes you're going to be using in your training? How do you maybe prioritize certain muscle groups at different times to still get good growth, but maybe not be right? So that's what the coach does, is it takes you and goes, okay, how can we apply these principles to you, which might be a completely different way to apply them to that person because you're not the same person.
I was just interested to see how it would handle it, because does it handle it as a philosophical task? These are the different ways in which people have promoted training. These are the different, or would it actually just say, look, these are the cold hard facts and present them as such? There's not a huge amount of room in there for actually this has been done in lots of different ways. There's nothing really that you would take someone as that it suggests of taking someone sort of in the position in which they're in at the moment, sort of meeting them where they're at. So going from not training to training 2 to 3 times a week to then hitting all of these and then progressive overload. I can see lots of situations in which if somebody has not been in the weights room before, that would be a recipe for them to give up quite quickly, because it's quite a lot to take on board. So that kind of coaching element where you're able to actually speak to someone and say, okay, what have you done before? What did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy? And factor all of those things into the decision-making process about what those gym sessions look like, where it takes place. We know that weightlifting and resistance training is important for muscle gain in this specific example, but would you abandon things like cardiovascular exercise if somebody comes into me and say, I really like going for a run, I'd like to build some more muscle? You'd be talking to them straight away about the push and pull between those two competing demands in terms of recovery. We're going to keep some running in because you enjoy doing it, and that's important too. And we're going to add in some resistance training, but we might not add in 3 sessions. If you're going on 2. So I think all of that nuance is lost on it, but it is impressive how it's able to spit out these answers.
I think what we're doing at the minute is we're comparing it to, okay, how does this article that it's spat out in 3 seconds compare to having a coach that works with you that probably pay a reasonable amount of money for to actually work with and be there? It's not going to win that. But interestingly, I think if I was to compare that article that is just written there about how to build muscle to probably 90% of any article on building muscle that you find in a magazine or even online, is when things try and be more specific than that, and it's like, oh, you've got to do these giant sets, or you've got to do this, and I think it strays further away from something that's useful, because this is zoomed out, but actually largely, really, if not entirely, like factually correct.
Yeah.
And it hasn't tied itself to an ideology, or it hasn't got to do this. Whereas that's the answer, but all the content that gets written that tries to sort of go more zoomed in on this actually makes things more specific for maybe like a hypothetical individual and less applicable to the person who's probably reading it. So in terms of article writing, like it's pretty good, because it seems to stay more in its lane, and it doesn't venture, and it's probably because of the way it's processing everything that's written and taking a kind of nice middle line on everything. It doesn't venture into these kind of areas that are just a bit more sort of opinion based or experiential from what one person did that helped them build muscle one time and then apply that to everyone. So yeah, as an article writing process, it's very impressive, but it would be tough for something to possibly, hopefully at this stage, be able to replace a coach.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, there we go.
Just a last thought on it.
Yeah.
Is the thing is that we've asked it very general questions. It would be interesting if you asked it something like, can I run and strength train at the same time?
Yeah.
Because I think if you asked it literally the question that your client asks you, I can almost imagine what its answer would be to that. And again, it would be kind of down the middle. It's like both of them can work together, although if you're trying to maximize one, probably lean more into one than the other, which is probably the answer that we kind of give. It's not going to write you a plan, probably, that splits it up. But I think we've asked it general questions and it's given us general answers.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. So if you've got any requests for questions that you want us to ask ChatGPT, we'll be back.
Yeah.
With more. I think it's a very interesting resource.
I think so far we're impressed with it.
We're impressed. I'm impressed. Good. And I think you're right. I think if you compare like for like articles like that, you're absolutely right. The avoidance of the need to push a particular objective or a USP, and the avoidance of being in competition with everyone else and trying to sound different, has allowed it to write something that's more factual.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's actually better for its lack of bias. Yeah. Cool.